Have you ever experienced a moment so perfectly, devastatingly clear that time itself seemed to fracture? A moment where the person you thought you were vanishes and someone new, someone sharper, colder, infinitely more determined, steps into the shell? I had mine on a perfectly ordinary Saturday morning, standing in the upstairs hallway of my only daughter's home, listening to the sound of her future being stolen. Not just her trust, not just her heart, but every penny she'd ever scraped together through blood, sweat, and tears. The steam from that bathroom carried more than the scent of jasmine bath oil. It carried the laughter of betrayal, the wet slap of infidelity, and the chilling blueprint of a financial massacre. And in that crystalline, shattering moment, I made a choice. I didn't scream. I didn't weep. I didn't confront. I simply reached out, took hold of the cold brass key in the bathroom door, and turned it. The soft, definitive click of that lock engaging was the first note in a symphony of revenge I never knew I had in me. So, tell me, where are you watching from right now? Are you in a cozy apartment in Toronto? On a lunch break in London? Sitting in your car in Texas? Drop your city in the comments below. Let me feel the breadth of this community. Get comfortable. Grab a blanket, a cup of tea, or something stronger. And trust me when I say, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because this isn't a 5-minute story. This is an epic. The day dawned with the kind of fragile optimism that only a mother clinging to hope can manufacture. My daughter, Chloe Ann Walker, was turning 36. To the world, she was a success story. To me, she was my brilliant, stubborn, heart-scarred child who had finally found her footing after years of stumbling. 3 years prior, her divorce from Kevin had shattered her. It wasn't the dramatic, explosive kind. It was the slow, leaching kind. A marriage dying of indifference. She'd emerged thinner, quieter, with a skepticism in her eyes that broke my heart anew every time I saw it. She'd spent those years in a series of just-for-now jobs, underemployed, her Columbia MBA gathering dust, her confidence a fragile eggshell. Then 8 months ago, the miracle. Pinnacle Financial, one of the most prestigious investment firms in the state, had headhunted her. A vice president of strategic portfolio development. The title was a mouthful, the salary was life-altering. She moved from a cramped one-bedroom apartment to a stunning, light-filled townhouse in the historic Oakview district. She bought art. She wore blazers that cost more than my first car. She smiled with her teeth again. We'd fought, of course. That's our language. She thought I was clinging, criticizing her new life. I thought she was changing too fast, trusting the wrong people. The central point of contention, Veronica Hayes. Veronica. God, even saying the name leaves a bitter taste. Chloe met her on her first day at Pinnacle. Veronica, a senior associate, had taken her under her wing. She was everything Chloe admired. Polished, razor-sharp, effortlessly connected. She had the kind of blonde highlights that looked sun-kissed, not salon-bought, and a laugh that was just a little too loud, a little too performative. The first time I met her at Chloe's housewarming, she'd enveloped me in a cloud of expensive perfume and condescension. "Oh, Elizabeth," she'd drawled, her eyes scanning my simple dress. "Chloe's told me so much about you. It must be so liberating to be retired. All that time for gardening and novels." She said novels like they were cute, trivial things, not the lifeblood of my former profession. I'd taught advanced placement literature for 35 years. I'd guided teenagers through James Joyce and Toni Morrison, had my lessons cited in academic papers. To Veronica, I was just Chloe's mom, a benign, slightly embarrassing relic. Chloe defended her relentlessly. "Mom, she's my mentor. She's introduced me to everyone. I owe her my smooth transition." When I gently pointed out that Veronica seemed to isolate her from old friends, Chloe snapped. "You're jealous. You can't stand that someone else is important to me." The second new person was Jason Mitchell. He appeared about 2 months after the job started. A consultant who sometimes worked with Pinnacle. Charming but not slick. Handsome but approachable. He remembered my birthday with a delicate orchid. He fixed Chloe's garbage disposal without being asked. He listened, truly listened, when she talked about work. He felt safe, and that, I would learn, was the most dangerous quality of all. The party was my peace offering. A surprise brunch. Just family, a few of her old college friends she'd been neglecting, and I grudgingly conceded Veronica and Jason. I'd baked for 2 days. Her favorite lemon blueberry cake, buttermilk scones, a savory bread pudding. I'd strung delicate fairy lights across her living room and bought balloons the color of champagne. I used the spare key she'd given me after the divorce, just in case. My heart was a balloon itself, buoyant with hope as I let myself in at 8:30 a.m. The house was tomb silent. Good, I thought. She's still sleeping. I'll have everything ready before she stumbles down for coffee. I was arranging a bouquet of sunflowers in a vase when I heard it. A thump from upstairs. Then a muffled male laugh. My body went still, the flower stem frozen in my hand. Jason? Had he stayed over? Chloe hadn't mentioned it. A slow, creeping unease began to wind its way up my spine. It wasn't jealousy. It was dissonance. The house felt wrong. Then the laugh came again. Higher. Musical. Veronica's laugh. Followed by Jason's voice, low and intimate. She won't be back for hours. The words slithered down the staircase and wrapped around my throat. Every maternal alarm bell that had been softly clanging for months now shrieked in a deafening chorus. I don't remember deciding to move. My body simply acted, setting the sunflower down with exquisite care, as if it were a detonator. I moved to the staircase, my sensible loafers making no sound on the polished wood. 40 years of navigating quiet hallways during exams had taught me how to be a ghost. The master bedroom door was ajar. From within, through the open ensuite door, came the hiss of a shower and the slosh of water. And voices, perfectly clear now, floating on the steam. Transfer is complete. The last of the liquid assets, Jason was saying, his voice businesslike. She didn't question it. Veronica's voice. Why would she? She trusts me. Thinks I'm diversifying her portfolio. The Bahamian property is the perfect cover. A solid, tangible asset. She's too busy with the Q3 reports to dig into the holding company. A giggle. My poor, diligent Chloe. Buried in spreadsheets while we plan our beach retirement. She really is tragically naive. Naive and now significantly lighter in the bank account. The sound that followed wasn't a laugh. It was a gloating, watery chuckle. It was the sound of predators after a successful hunt. A coldness, absolute and pure, settled in my core. It froze the panic, solidified the horror. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a clinical, premeditated dismantling. They weren't just betraying her in her bed. They were pillaging her life from her own bathtub. My eyes, scanning the hallway, landed on the small console table. Jason's brown leather wallet, a Montblanc pen, and a thin beige folder. On the tab in Jason's neat script, Chloe W. Bahamian transition. Final. Evidence. The word echoed in the frozen vault of my mind. I became a study in controlled movement. 3 silent steps. The folder was cool under my fingertips. I didn't open it. Not yet. I retreated, a shadow retreating from the light of their disgrace. Downstairs, in the stark brightness of the kitchen, I opened the folder. My reading glasses were in my purse. I squinted. Numbers. Lots of them. 6-figure numbers. Wire transfer confirmations. A glossy real estate brochure for Villa Serenity, Nassau. And at the bottom of the stack, a single chilling document. A power of attorney form already signed by Chloe but blank in the attorney-in-fact field. Waiting for a name. Probably Jason's. The coldness in my core ignited into a white-hot forge of fury. This was beyond forgiveness, beyond scandal. This was war. And I had the element of surprise. Have you ever felt so angry that you became utterly calm? That's what happened. The tears, the shaking, the screaming, they were for later. In that moment, I was a general surveying a battlefield. And I knew exactly where to strike first. Are you with me so far? Because the strategy is everything. Comment strategy, below if you're already planning what you would have done. My phone felt heavy in my hand. This required precision. 2 calls. 2 precisely crafted lies. First, to Chloe. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice husky with sleep. Mom? What's up? Chloe, honey, you need to come home. Now. Why? What's wrong? A thread of annoyance. There's been a major leak. From the upstairs bathroom. I came to set up for the party, and there's water everywhere. The ceiling in the kitchen is starting to drip. A pause. I could hear her brain engaging, shifting from sleep to problem solving. Did you call a plumber? I tried. The earliest they can come is tonight. But Chloe, it's bad. And there are things floating. Your things. You need to see this. You need to authorize whatever they have to do. I layered my voice with a fragile, overwhelmed tremor. The mother in distress card. It usually worked. A long sigh. God, okay. Okay. I'm on my way. 20 minutes. 1 down. The second call was trickier. David Hayes. Veronica's husband. I'd met him twice. A tax attorney, kind-eyed, slightly rumpled, utterly devoted to his dazzling wife. He'd shown me pictures of their rescue dog at the holiday party. I found his number in my contacts, took a steadying breath, and dialed. David? It's Elizabeth Walker, Chloe's mother. I'm so sorry to bother you on a Saturday. Elizabeth. Not a bother at all. Is everything all right? Well, I'm at Chloe's and Veronica left her purse here. I believe she came by earlier to drop something off. Anyway, it's here on the counter, and I can see her medication bottle inside. I remember her mentioning at the party how critical it was to take it with food at the same time every day. I didn't want her to miss a dose. I let the concern hang, warm and genuine. The perfect blend of observant and slightly meddling. Her medication? David's voice tightened with immediate concern. But she said she was at a spin class with her sister. She must have stopped by Chloe's after. Odd she didn't mention it. Oh, perhaps it was a quick pop-in, I said, airy and dismissive. Girls, you know how they are. But the purse is here. I can leave it with a neighbor if you're busy. No, I'll come. She needs that. Thank you for noticing, Elizabeth. That's very kind. I'm about 25 minutes away. I'll be here. 1247 Oak Street. I hung up. The trap was set. The players were en route. I had 25 minutes to prepare the stage. I spent it not panicking, but investigating. I took photos of every page in the folder with my phone. I emailed them to myself and to my own lawyer, a woman named Brenda who had handled Robert's estate. Subject line: urgent potential fraud, do not open until you hear from me. Then I did something instinctive. I went to Chloe's sleek, minimalist desk and woke her computer. It was password protected. I tried a few, her old standbys, her dog's name. Nothing. Then I remembered. She'd mentioned in frustration that Jason had set up a new, more secure password protocol for her. He'd probably had his fingers on this very keyboard, installing God knows what. A fresh wave of fury washed over me. I closed my eyes. Think, Elizabeth. What would he use? Something she'd remember, that he could easily guess. It came to me in a flash. Her father's birthday, combined with the year of her promotion. I typed it in, Robert 0523 Pinnacle 22. The desktop bloomed to life. My access felt like a violation, but a necessary one. I went straight to her browser history. Cleared. Of course. But then I checked saved passwords. A long list appeared. Her bank. Her investment firm. Her retirement account. All saved. All accessible with one click from this machine. Jason hadn't just stolen her money. He'd stolen her digital keys. I heard a car door shut outside. Chloe. Early. I closed everything, shut down the computer, and walked calmly to the front door. As Chloe's key turned in the lock from the outside, I turned the deadbolt from the inside, and then stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door shut behind me with a soft, definitive click. I held the folder against my chest like a shield. She stood there, car keys in hand, frowning. She was in yoga pants and a Pinnacle hoodie, her dark hair in a messy bun. She looked young, and my heart ached. Mom, what are you doing outside? And why do you look like you just won the lottery and found out the ticket was stolen? I managed a thin smile. Oh, honey, the plumbing can wait. Have a seat. I gestured to one of her wrought iron porch chairs. Mom, what is going on? Is there actually water damage? There's damage, I said, my voice low. But not from water. We need to wait for David Hayes. Her confusion deepened into irritation. Veronica's husband? Why? Mom, I have a million things to do before. Chloe Ann. I used the full name. The tone. She fell silent, her eyes narrowing. Sit down. What is about to happen will be the most painful thing you have ever witnessed. But you will not be alone. And you will not be the victim by the time it's over. Do you understand me? She didn't understand. But she heard the iron in my voice, saw the unfamiliar glint in my eyes. Slowly she sat. We waited in tense silence for 7 minutes. It felt like 7 hours. The spring sun was warm, birds chirped in the oak tree, and the world was obscenely cheerful. Then David's silver Mercedes pulled into the driveway. He got out, his expression one of polite, slightly hurried concern. He was a handsome man in a gentle way. He carried the weight of his devotion like an invisible cloak. Elizabeth, he said, striding up the walk. Thank you again. Where's the purse? It's inside, David, I said, standing. But first, there's something you need to hear. Both of you. Chloe stood now too, a united front born of mutual bewilderment. What is this? David asked, his lawyerly radar pinging. This, I said, is an intervention. For all of us. I turned to Chloe. Unlock the door, sweetheart. She did. And as the door swung inward, the sounds from upstairs, no longer muffled by wooden walls, tumbled down the staircase and flooded the foyer. Unmistakable. Giddy postcoital laughter. The splash of water. Veronica's voice, clear as a bell. Should have seen her face when I told her that dress made her look matronly. She believed me. She changed. Chloe made a small, choked sound, like a wounded animal. Her hand flew to her mouth. All the color drained from her face, leaving her looking ghostly and young. David's face didn't change at first. It simply emptied. All the warmth, the intelligence, the gentle humor. It leaked out, leaving behind a blank, terrifying mask. Then understanding dawned, and with it, a devastation so profound it was physical. He swayed slightly, putting a hand on the doorframe. "That's," he whispered, the words scraping from his throat. "That's my wife. And my boyfriend," Chloe breathed, the sound barely audible. I stepped between them and the staircase, holding up the manila folder like a torch. "And this," I said, my voice cutting through the stunned silence, "is the reason they're not just in her tub, but in her bank accounts, her retirement fund, and a beach house in the Bahamas. This isn't a love affair, children. This is a hostile takeover. That walk up the stairs. I will remember it until my dying day." The sound of our footsteps on the treads, Chloe's furious stomp, David's leaden drag, my own deliberate, measured pace, was the drumbeat marching us to the gallows. But we weren't the ones who would hang. Stay with me. The confrontation is next, and it's brutal. If you've ever been betrayed, type justice in the comments. Let me know I'm not alone in this. We stood outside the bathroom door. The laughter inside had stuttered to a halt. They'd heard us. "Mrs. Walker?" Jason's voice called out, tense, forced into a casual tone. "Chloe? Is someone there?" Chloe didn't answer. She reached for the doorknob. It was locked from the inside. A fleeting, absurd thought. They have the nerve to lock it. I held up the key I'd taken earlier. It glinted in the hallway light. I handed it to her. She took it, her fingers steady. She inserted it, turned it with a loud, metallic clunk, and pushed the door open. The scene was a grotesque parody of intimacy. The room was a sauna, steam clinging to the mirrors. The oversized soaking tub was a froth of bubbles and sin. Jason was half standing, frozen in the act of reaching for a towel, water sluicing down his torso. He looked ordinary, shockingly so. Just a man caught, his charm rendered pathetic. Veronica was trying to sink deeper into the bubbles, her face a comical mask of shock and instantly calculated damage control. Her blonde hair was dark and wet, plastered to her skull. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. Small. The silence was absolute, broken only by the drip of the faucet. Chloe spoke first. Her voice was quiet, deadly calm. It was the voice I used when a student had committed an unforgivable plagiarism. "Don't let us interrupt. We just came to check on the plumbing emergency." She gestured vaguely at the water on the floor. "Looks like there's some overflow." Veronica's mask snapped back into place with an almost audible click. She manufactured a look of scandalized innocence. "Chloe! Oh my God! This is not what it looks like. Jason was having back spasms. From moving furniture yesterday. I was just trying to help him stretch in the warm water. It's a physical therapy technique." The audacity was breathtaking. Even David, in his catatonic state, blinked. I let out a short, humorless laugh. It echoed in the tiled room. "Veronica, save your creative writing for someone who hasn't been listening to your quarterly financial report for the past 20 minutes. The one about liquidating assets and Bahamian villas." I held up the folder. "Care to explain Mitchell Holdings LLC? Or the $187,000 transfer from Chloe's Fidelity account that went through yesterday?" Jason found his voice, dripping with wounded dignity. "Elizabeth, you're misunderstanding. Those are private investment opportunities. I would never jeopardize Chloe's financial future. I love her." The word love in that context, in that room, was the most obscene thing I'd ever heard. "You love her so much you're stealing her blind with her best friend?" David said, his voice a hollow rasp. He was staring at Veronica as if she were a stranger who had murdered his real wife and worn her skin. "Veronica, our joint account. The kitchen renovation fund. How much of it is already in the Bahamas?" The facade on Veronica's face finally fissured. Panic flashed in her eyes, real and unvarnished. "David, please, you don't understand the pressure we're under at Pinnacle. The restructuring, layoffs are coming. We were just trying to create a safety net." "We?" Chloe exploded. The calm shattered. "We? You were helping yourself to my safety net. You were my friend. I told you everything. About Kevin, about my dad, about my fears." Her voice cracked, but her anger held her upright. She turned to Jason. "And you? The flowers? The dinners? Listening to me talk about work for hours? Was that all just research? Were you taking notes on how best to pick my bones clean? Chloe, baby, no. Jason started, taking a step forward, water sloshing over the tub's edge. Don't you dare call me that, she screamed, the sound raw and ragged. Don't you dare. Was any of it real? The retirement planning? The future we talked about? I saw my opening. The emotional storm was the perfect cover for a tactical strike. I think, I said, cutting through the chaos, we should continue this discussion somewhere less steamy. And with more evidence. I looked pointedly at their state of undress. Put some clothes on. We'll be in the kitchen. I herded Chloe and David out, pulling the bathroom door shut behind me. Not locking it this time. Let them marinate in their fear. Downstairs, Chloe went straight to her home office. I heard the computer powering on. David sank into a kitchen chair, his head in his hands. I put the kettle on. The mundane act was a lifeline to normalcy. Why? David mumbled into his palms. We were trying for a baby. We were looking at schools. My heart broke for him. He was collateral damage in a war he didn't know was being waged. Chloe called out from the office, her voice trembling with a new kind of horror. Mom, get in here. On her screen was her banking portal. Account summaries. Her main savings account, which should have held over $300,000, showed a balance of $4,217. Her investment account, zeroed out. A series of transfers, all within the last 6 weeks, all to an entity called MHLLC Escrow. He said it was for a short-term, high-yield municipal bond fund. That it was safer than the market volatility. Chloe was whispering, as if speaking too loudly would make the numbers real. Can you trace it? I asked. She clicked, her fingers flying over the keyboard with a frantic energy. The routing number, it goes to a bank in the Cayman Islands. David, who had wandered in, peered at the screen. His lawyer brain was starting to override his broken heart. That's not just theft. That's wire fraud. International wire fraud. That's federal. The sound of cautious footsteps on the stairs. Jason and Veronica, dressed now in the clothes they'd worn yesterday, looking damp and utterly defeated. Veronica's bravado was gone. She looked small, scared. Jason attempted to regain some authority, straightening his shirt. Chloe, he began. We can explain everything. The money is safe. It's just been moved into a different vehicle for your beach house? Chloe finished, turning the monitor toward him. Explain this. Explain why my life's work is now sitting in an offshore account. Jason paled. He hadn't expected her to have immediate access, to have dug this deep this fast. His eyes flicked to me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear. He'd underestimated me. He'd thought I was just the mother, an obstacle to be managed with flowers and charm, not a force to be reckoned with. We need to call the police, David said, his voice firm now. He had pulled out his phone. No, Veronica shrieked, lunging forward. David, please. We'll give it all back. Every cent. Just don't. You'll ruin everything. You've already ruined everything, he said, his gaze cold. He dialed 911. What followed was a bizarre tableau. David, giving the address in a clipped, professional tone to the dispatcher. Chloe, printing out every damning document she could find. Me, making a pot of coffee, because what else does a hostess do? And Jason and Veronica, sitting on the living room sofa like chastised children, whispering fiercely to each other. As David hung up, I saw Jason's eyes dart to the front door, calculating the distance. I wouldn't, I said pleasantly, stirring cream into my coffee. Fleeing would just add resisting arrest to the fraud and theft charges. And you're both much too well dressed for a foot chase. The wait for the police was interminable. 10 minutes. In that silence, the full weight of it settled on Chloe. She wasn't crying. She was just still, staring at the printed pages in her hands as if they were written in a foreign language. How did you know, Mom? She asked, not looking up. How did you know to look? I walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. I didn't know this, I said softly. I just knew her. I nodded toward Veronica. I knew that laugh of hers was a lie. I knew someone who tries that hard to make you feel small is hiding something even smaller inside. And I knew that any man who seems to have no flaws is hiding the biggest flaw of all. The police arriving should have been the end. The bad guys in cuffs, the slow process of recovery beginning. But sometimes when you pull on a single thread, the entire sweater doesn't just unravel. It reveals a completely different garment underneath. This was a sweater knitted with lies, and the thread I'd pulled was connected to a much, much bigger pattern. Don't go anywhere. What happened when the police walked in was just the prelude. The real shock was who walked in behind them. Smash that like button right now if you need to know who. I'll wait. The two uniformed officers were professional, slightly bored at first, another domestic disturbance. That changed when David, in his precise attorney's voice, said, "I'd like to report conspiracy to commit fraud, grand larceny, and international wire theft occurring at this address." Detective Miller arrived 20 minutes later, a heavy-set man with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. He took one look at my organized folder, at Chloe's printed bank statements, at the shell-shocked cheaters on the couch, and his boredom vanished. He began the slow process of separating us for statements. Chloe and I in the dining room, David in the kitchen, Jason and Veronica in separate corners of the living room, an officer standing watch. I was in the middle of explaining for the third time how I'd come to be in the house and what I'd overheard when my phone buzzed on the table. A number I didn't recognize, with a 212 area code. New York City. "I'm sorry, Detective, I should take this," I said. Something in my gut told me to. He nodded, gesturing for me to go ahead. I stepped into the quiet hallway. "Hello, Elizabeth Walker?" A woman's voice, crisp, no nonsense. "Yes. This is Patricia Morgan. I'm the head of internal security for Pinnacle Financial's Northeast Division. We need to talk. Immediately." The coldness in my core returned. How did they know? The thought was a blade. "I'm currently speaking with the police, Ms. Morgan. There's been an incident involving 2 Pinnacle employees." "I'm aware. That's why I'm calling. I'm 4 minutes from your location. And I'm not coming alone. Please inform Detective Miller, is it? Please inform him that Agent Mark Reyes from the FBI's Financial Crimes Task Force will be joining us." The world tilted slightly. FBI. The words weren't just letters. They were a seismic shift in scale. This wasn't a local crime anymore. "I'll let him know," I managed to say, my voice steady. I hung up and walked back to Detective Miller. "We're about to have company. From Pinnacle's internal security. And the FBI." His eyebrows shot up. He exchanged a glance with his partner. "The FBI? It would appear," I said, "that we've caught more than just 2 cheating thieves." Patricia Morgan was exactly as her voice suggested. Mid-50s, steel-gray hair in a severe bob, a black suit that meant business. Agent Mark Reyes was younger, maybe 40, with a quiet, contained energy and eyes that took in the entire scene in one sweep. He showed his badge to Detective Miller, and a brief, quiet conversation occurred in the corner. Then they turned to us. "To me. Mrs. Walker," Agent Reyes said, extending a hand. His grip was firm, dry. "I understand you're the one who uncovered this." Uncovered is a strong word. I stumbled into it, and then I locked the door. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Strategic. May we?" He gestured to the dining table. We reconvened, Chloe, David, myself, Detective Miller, Patricia, and Agent Reyes. Jason and Veronica were now formally detained in separate police cruisers outside, their fate suddenly escalating. Patricia opened a sleek leather briefcase and removed not a file but a tablet. She turned it to face us. On the screen was an organizational chart with photos. At the center, a blank silhouette. Branching out, several photos, including headshots of Jason and Veronica. Lines connected them to other names, other photos of attractive, professional-looking people. "This," Patricia said, her voice devoid of any emotion, "is Operation Honeycomb, an ongoing multi-state investigation into a sophisticated criminal enterprise that uses romance and social manipulation to gain access to and steal from high-net-worth individuals. Jason Mitchell and Veronica Hayes are what we call field operatives." Chloe's hand found mine under the table. Hers was ice cold. How many?" Chloe whispered. Agent Reyes answered. 12 confirmed victims we can directly tie to this cell. Total estimated theft, $1.8 million. And those are just the ones we know about. The numbers were abstract, monstrous. My mind tried to wrap around the grief of 12 families, the shattered trust, the financial ruin. "But here's what makes today significant," Patricia continued, zooming in on the chart. "Every other victim on this board discovered the theft after their partner and friend had disappeared, often after moving large sums to offshore accounts. They left behind ghosted phones, empty apartments, and broken lives. You," she said, looking at Chloe and then at me, "caught them in the middle of the operation. You have living, breathing perpetrators who can lead us up the chain of command." "The chain of command?" David asked, his legal mind latching onto the phrase. "This is organized?" "Highly," Agent Reyes said. "This isn't a couple of greedy co-workers. This is a franchise model. The field operatives like Jason and Veronica are recruited, trained, and provided with targets and operational support. They report to a handler. The handler provides the target's financial profiles, orchestrates the meet cuties, and manages the money laundering. A sickening puzzle was clicking together in my mind. The perfect job offer. The instant best friend. The flawless boyfriend. It was all curated. Service for a fee. Who's the handler? My voice cut through the heavy air. Patricia and Agent Reyes exchanged a look. It was Reyes who spoke. That's what we've been trying to determine for 6 months. We have surveillance. We know the field ops meet with him. Or her. But they're careful. Meetings in crowded places, backs to cameras, cash payments. He nodded to Patricia. She tapped her tablet, and a video began to play. Grainy from a high angle. A hotel restaurant. Jason and Veronica, sitting at a table. Across from them, a man. We saw only the back of a well-groomed, silver-haired head, expensive suit jacket. He gestured with his left hand as he spoke, a distinctive chopping motion. Then, as the waiter passed, he half-turned to make room. The profile was brief, partially obscured, but something about the angle of his jaw, the set of his shoulders. A memory buried under 3 years of grief, erupted to the surface with such force I gasped aloud. Every head in the room swiveled to me. "Elizabeth?" Chloe asked, alarmed. I couldn't speak. I pointed a trembling finger at the frozen image on the tablet. "Play it again." The moment he turns. "Slow it down." Patricia did. Frame by frame, the man's partial profile appeared. The breath left my body in a rush. The air in the room became too thin. I saw a different room. A room smelling of lilies and grief. A mahogany casket. My husband's still face. A hand on my elbow, a voice smooth as oil. "Mrs. Walker, a tragedy. Robert was so respected. If your daughter ever needs guidance in his memory." A business card pressed into my palm. A distinct, rhythmic tap of his fingers on the pew beside me. Tap, 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 tap. Just like the gesture in the video. "I know him," I whispered. The words felt like shards of glass in my throat. "Who?" Agent Reyes was instantly alert, leaning forward. I turned to Chloe, my eyes wide with the horror of it. "It's Richard Carlson." The name landed in the silent room like a bomb. Chloe's face went from pale to ashen. "What? No. Mom, no. That's impossible. That's my boss. The senior managing director. He promoted me. He's my mentor." Her voice was a plea, begging me to be wrong. "Richard Carlson," Patricia Morgan said flatly, her own face grim. "He has access to every client portfolio at Pinnacle. He oversees the department where both Chloe and Veronica work. He would have full visibility on salary, bonuses, investment accounts of employees, and clients." Agent Reyes was already typing on his phone. "It fits. The handler needs insider financial knowledge. Needs to identify the perfect targets, people with money, and a potential emotional vulnerability." He looked at Chloe with something akin to pity. A recent divorcee, newly promoted, with a substantial signing bonus and a grieving mother. You were the ideal candidate. Chloe made a small, broken sound. She wasn't just a victim of crime. She was a product, selected from a catalog. Her entire professional rebirth, her pride, her sense of self, it had all been manufactured as part of a con. David spoke, his voice thick. "He was at your firm's holiday party. He shook my hand, talked about the market with me. He asked about Veronica's stress levels. He put his head in his hands again. He was checking on his asset. The scale of the betrayal was cosmic. It wasn't random. It was a 3-year plan, starting with a predatory gesture of condolence at my husband's funeral." Patricia's phone buzzed. She read the message, and her lips pressed into a thin, white line. "He's on the move. Corporate jet just filed an expedited flight plan from Teterboro to Grand Cayman. Departure in 90 minutes. The spider felt the vibrations in his web and was fleeing. A frantic energy took over the room. Agent Reyes started barking orders into his phone about grounding the jet, alerting customs. Detective Miller coordinated with local PD to formally arrest Jason and Veronica on federal hold. In the midst of the storm, I felt that cold, crystalline clarity return. They had the foot soldiers. They had the evidence. But the architect, the man who had looked into my eyes at my lowest moment and seen only a gateway to my daughter's treasury, he was about to slip away to a beachfront villa paid for with the ruins of lives. He thought he was smarter. He thought he was untouchable. He thought people like me were background noise. He was wrong. I waited for a lull. Then I spoke, my voice cutting through the chatter. "Agent Reyes." He turned, phone still to his ear. "You'll never stop him in time at the airport. Not with the lawyers and loopholes a man like that has on retainer. We have to try," he he said, but frustration was etched on his face. There's another way. All eyes were on me. Chloe's were wide with fear. He doesn't know he's been made. Not yet. Jason and Veronica were caught in a private scandal. As far as he knows, it's a messy, personal affair that got out of hand. The financial theft might not even be on his radar, yet if they didn't have time to warn him. Patricia caught on first. You think he's running because his operatives are compromised, not because the whole scheme is blown. Exactly. So, what if we controlled the narrative? What if we gave him a reason to pause? To think he still has a chance to contain this? Ow! Agent Reyes asked, his full attention on me now. I took a deep breath. He's met me. He assessed me once, 3 years ago, as a vulnerable widow. He'll remember me as Chloe's sweet, old, confused mother. I let a hint of a smile touch my lips. What if that sweet, old, confused mother reached out to him? In a panic. Overwhelmed by the police, the accusations, the complex financial talk. Seeking the guidance of her daughter's wise, powerful mentor to help her make sense of it all. To maybe influence her daughter to be less cooperative with the police. The silence was profound. They were all staring at me as if I'd grown a second head. Elizabeth, that is monumentally dangerous, Detective Miller said. He's a suspected criminal mastermind. He's a man who thinks women my age are decorations, I countered. He'll see an opportunity, not a threat. He'll think he can manipulate me, use me to control Chloe, to buy time, to secure his assets. He'll agree to meet. It's a solid tactical approach, Agent Reyes said slowly, his mind racing alongside mine. But the risk to you is mine to take, I said firmly. I looked at Chloe. Her face was a mask of terror. He targeted my family. He used my husband's memory as a tool. He turned my daughter's triumph into a tragedy. This isn't just your case, Agent Reyes. It's my vendetta, and I want a front row seat. After a heated, whispered debate that felt like an hour, but was only minutes, Agent Reyes agreed. The plan was insane, but it had the one element all the best plans do. It relied on the enemy's arrogance. They would wire me. They would surround the meeting place. They would record everything. And I would play the role of a lifetime, Elizabeth Walker, the helpless grandmother. As the tech agent fitted me with a microphone so small it was invisible, and a transmitter that felt like a rock in the small of my back, Chloe pulled me aside. Her eyes were swimming with tears. Mom, you can't. Please. What if he's violent? I cupped her face. He's not violent, sweetheart. He's a coward. Cowards use manipulation, not force. And he won't expect a thing from me. That's our advantage. I kissed her forehead. Now let me go do what I do best. I'm going to teach him a lesson he'll never forget. So I became a spy. A 62-year-old, cardigan-wearing, tea-drinking secret agent. And all I had to do was have coffee with the devil. Does this plan make your heart race? Mine was doing a marathon. Tell me in the comments right now, Coffee with the Devil, if you're on the edge of your seat. Subscribe because the next chapter is where everything hangs in the balance. The 48 hours between locking that bathroom door and walking into the Perk Cafe were a masterclass in controlled chaos. I didn't sleep. How could I? My mind was a war room, rehearsing every possible scenario, every word, every glance. The FBI techs came to my house. A surreal parade of serious young people in khakis and polo shirts turning my cozy living room into a command center. They fitted me with a wire so sophisticated it felt like science fiction. The microphone was a flesh-colored dot smaller than a ladybug, placed just below the collar of my blouse. The transmitter was a flat, cold wafer taped to the small of my back. It's voice-activated, Mrs. Walker, a tech named Leo told me. We'll hear every whisper, every intake of breath. He gave me a small, rubberized panic button to conceal in my palm. One squeeze if you feel threatened. We'll be on you in 3 seconds. Agent Reyes drilled me. We sat at my kitchen table, cups of cold coffee between us, as he played the devil's advocate. What if he asks why you called him and not Chloe's lawyer? I'll say I was too embarrassed, that I didn't want to bother her with my confusion, and I remembered his kindness at Robert's funeral, that I trust his position. What if he probes about the police investigation? Asks what they've found? I play dumb. Oh, it's all so technical, Richard. They use words like forensics and subpoena. I just nod and try not to cry. What if he suggests you convince Chloe to drop the charges? To handle it internally at Pinnacle? I met Reyes's gaze. That's the hook, isn't it? That's what we want. I'll seem hesitant, worried about Chloe's career, but ultimately pliable. Do you really think that's best? For her future? Chloe was a wreck. She stayed at a safe house with a female agent, but she called me every few hours, her voice thin with fear. "Mom, please. You don't have to do this. They have enough on him. Let the system work." "The system is slow, sweetheart," I told her, my voice gentle but firm. "And men like Richard Carlson have greased the wheels of that system for decades. He'll be on his jet, then in a jurisdiction without extradition, and you'll spend the next 10 years in civil court trying to get pennies back. This is the cleanest, fastest way. He needs to be handcuffed on American soil, with American law enforcement watching him do it." The morning of the meeting, I dressed with deliberate care. I chose a soft lilac cardigan, a grandma color, over a simple cream shell. Pearls. Sensible, low-heeled shoes. I looked in the mirror and saw the exact image Richard Carlson would expect. Elizabeth Walker, retired teacher, slightly frumpy, utterly non-threatening. Perfect. Agent Reyes picked me up in a bland sedan. "Remember," he said, his eyes on the road, "you're not just gathering evidence. You're keeping him occupied, engaged, for as long as possible. Our team in New Jersey is simultaneously executing warrants on his office and his home. We need him distracted and away from his phone for at least 45 minutes. How will I know when you have it?" "You'll know." He dropped me 2 blocks from the cafe. I walked the rest of the way, the spring sun feeling obscenely cheerful on my face. Every pedestrian was a potential threat, every slowing car a source of adrenaline. My senses were hyper-alive. I noted the van parked across the street with tinted windows, our command vehicle. The construction worker on a nearby bench, too clean, an agent. The mother with a stroller who never looked at her baby, another agent. The interior of the perk was cool and quiet, smelling of expensive coffee and lemongrass cleaner. I took my assigned seat, my back to the wall, facing the door. The waitress, a young woman with sharp, observant eyes, brought me chamomile tea without my asking. "Nervous stomach?" she whispered with a knowing smile. I nodded, my throat too tight for words. The next 15 minutes were an eternity. I rehearsed my lines in my head. I felt the panic button, smooth and solid in my sweaty palm. Agent Reyes's voice was a periodic, calming presence in my ear. "All green, Elizabeth. Just breathe. He's 5 minutes out." And then he was there. Richard Carlson didn't just enter the cafe, he occupied it. He had a presence that shifted the energy in the room, a gravitational pull of wealth and authority. He was taller, more physically substantial than I remembered from the funeral. His silver hair was a masterpiece of subtle styling. His suit was a work of art, dark gray, impeccably cut, no visible label screaming its cost, which meant it was astronomically expensive. He saw me, and his face performed a subtle, seamless transformation. The sharp-eyed executive softened into the compassionate patriarch. He moved toward my table, and I saw him take me in, the cardigan, the pearls, the teacup clutched in slightly trembling hands. I saw the assessment in his eyes, the quick, unconscious categorization. Non-threat. Emotional. Manageable. "Elizabeth," he said, and his voice was a warm baritone, layered with practiced concern. He took both my hands in his as he sat. His skin was smooth, his grip confident. "My dear, I came as soon as I could. I've been sick with worry. How is our Chloe bearing up?" "Our Chloe?" The possessive was a spider's silk thread, trying to weave me into his web. I let my eyes shimmer with unshed tears, mastering the art of the wobbly lip. "Oh, Richard, it's an absolute nightmare. The police have been at her house for hours. They're talking about felony charges, about international banks. I don't understand any of it. And Chloe?" I let my voice break. "She's so angry. She's not listening to reason. She's talking about lawsuits, about dragging Pinnacle's name through the mud." I injected a note of scandalized horror. He patted my hands, a perfect gesture of condescending comfort. Now, let's not catastrophize." He signaled the waitress for an espresso, his movements economical, sure. "This is a deeply personal tragedy, a profound betrayal of trust. But we must be careful not to conflate the immoral actions of 2 individuals with the esteemed institution that employed them." And so began his performance. It was Shakespearean in its audacity. He painted himself as the besieged but noble leader, his company a fortress betrayed from within. He used phrases like rogue actors, breach of fiduciary duty, and the highest ethical standards. He slid his tablet across the table, showing me what looked like official internal memos, dates, signatures, corporate letterhead, detailing immediate audits and compliance overhauls. They were forgeries, of course, but they were beautiful forgeries. I nodded along, playing the overwhelmed, grateful student. "It's all so complex. These transfers to the Caymans." Chloe showed me numbers, Richard. Large numbers. Just gone. Temporarily obscured, Elizabeth, he corrected gently, as if teaching a slow child. In these sophisticated schemes, capital is moved, layered through shell corporations. It's a digital shell game. But Pinnacle has resources beyond those of the local police. We have forensic accountants who track these things for a living. We will find Chloe's assets. I give you my personal guarantee. He leaned back, sipping his espresso, a man in complete control, dispensing reassurance like a king granting favors. This was the moment, the critical hinge. I dabbed at my eyes with my napkin, a picture of fragile confusion. Then I looked up at him, letting my gaze go a little unfocused, a little lost in memory. You know, when I saw those zeros on her screen, I felt so ill, so helpless. And then I remembered you at the funeral home. I let a small, sad smile touch my lips. You were so kind. You took the time to speak to me, a complete stranger. You gave me your card. You said if Chloe ever needed guidance to call you. I leaned in slightly, my voice dropping to a confidential whisper. Did you have an inkling? Even then, did you sense she might need protecting? There it was. The question that forced him off his rehearsed script. For a fraction of a second, the benevolent mask vanished. I didn't see anger or fear. I saw the cold, swift calculation of a supercomputer reassessing a faulty variable. His eyes, a pale, penetrating blue, sharpened on me. The warmth in them didn't fade, it was switched off. The patrician concern was replaced by the flat, analytical gaze of a predator sensing an anomaly in his territory. The pause was barely 2 seconds, but in the wired, silent tension of that cafe, it echoed like a gunshot. Elizabeth, he said, and his voice was still smooth, but it had lost its velvety padding. It was cool marble. That was simply an act of human compassion. One professional to the widow of another. We can't predict the tragedies or the betrayals that lie ahead for any of us. But the coincidence, I pressed, widening my eyes, layering on the bewildered old lady act, but letting a thread of steel slip into my tone. It feels orchestrated. You reached out at her lowest moment, and now, here you are, at what feels like another one. It's as if you saw a vulnerability. A pattern. The air between us crackled. The pretense was collapsing. He leaned back, steepling his fingers, studying me not as a victim to be managed, but as a problem to be solved. The shift was terrifying and exhilarating. What exactly are you suggesting, Elizabeth? The question was a silken trap. It invited me to either back down into flustered apology or to reveal my hand. I held his gaze, and I let the entire facade, the trembling hands, the watery eyes, the confusion, fall away. It didn't crumble, it dissolved, revealing the core of tempered steel beneath. My posture straightened. My hands grew still on the table. My voice, when I spoke, was the one that had commanded rows of restless 17-year-olds, the one that had navigated parent-teacher conferences with hostile CEOs and defensive artists. It was clear, calm, and carried to every corner of the silent room. I'm suggesting, Richard, that your business model has a fatal flaw in its risk assessment. I didn't blink. You calculated for grief. You calculated for ambition and loneliness. You even calculated for the hubris that comes with sudden success. But you failed to calculate for maternal ferocity. And you profoundly underestimated the long memory of a woman who has spent a lifetime grading performances. Yours, I'm afraid, is derivative, full of cliches. His face didn't contort in rage. It didn't pale in fear. It simply settled. The last vestige of the persona he presented to the world evaporated, leaving behind the true face, intelligent, amoral, and chillingly empty. He looked at me not with hatred, but with a kind of cold, academic curiosity, as if I were a fascinating bug that had just stung him. He said nothing. He just stared, and in that stare, I saw him recalculating the entire equation of the last 3 years with this new, disruptive integer, me. That utter, profound silence was the signal. Chairs scraped simultaneously. The couple sharing the pastry stood up, hands moving to their belts. The barista reached under the counter. The man with the Financial Times dropped the paper. Agent Reyes was at our table in 3 strides. Richard Carlson, his voice boomed in the hushed space, devoid of all warmth, pure procedure. FBI. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, securities fraud, money laundering, and interstate transportation of stolen property. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The words were a familiar drone, but watching them being spoken to him, seeing the stainless steel cuffs click shut around those perfectly tailored sleeves, was a visceral, almost surreal satisfaction. Carlson didn't struggle. He didn't protest. He offered his wrists with a detached, almost bored compliance, as if this were a minor inconvenience in his day. But his eyes, as they were led away, locked with mine one last time. They held no plea, no anger. Just that icy, recalculating curiosity. I had become a data point. The thought was oddly unsettling. But the theater wasn't over. Agent Reyes guided us. Patricia Morgan had materialized from the command van to a back room of the cafe, a storage area cleared to hold a folding table and chairs. This was the unveiling. Carlson was seated, cuffed to a sturdy chair. He looked like a CEO in a budget meeting, not a criminal in custody. Patricia Morgan placed her tablet on the table in front of him. With a tap, she brought up not the organizational chart, but a map of the United States, dotted with 28 red pins. 28 victims, Richard. Not 12. We've been busy since Saturday. From San Diego to Boston. Teachers, doctors, small business owners, executives like Chloe. All successful. All lonely in some way you identified. All systematically stripped. Her voice was forensic, dispassionate. Total identified theft, $4.2 million. And that's just what we've traced so far. She swiped. The screen showed a collage of faces, women and a few men, their photos from professional profiles, their eyes bright with confidence they no longer possessed. Chloe's face was among them. Seeing it there, in that rogue's gallery of ruin, ignited a fresh wave of fury in my gut. Agent Reyes took over. We have the villa in Nassau. We have the accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, Singapore. We have the flight plan you filed for today. We have Jason Mitchell and Veronica Hayes in custody, and they are singing like canaries in a coal mine for a reduction in sentence. They've given us everything. The training manuals, the target profiles, the encrypted chat logs with you. For the first time, a flicker of something, not remorse but irritation, crossed Carlson's face. The failure of his subordinates. A logistical error. Agent Reyes tapped his tablet. The grainy hotel restaurant footage from Patricia Morgan's earlier presentation filled the screen again. But this time, the FBI's digital forensics team had worked their magic. The resolution was sharper, the colors more defined. As the silver-haired man at the table half-turned, sophisticated facial recognition software. A tool I'd only read about in spy novels, activated. A luminous, green-bordered box snapped to his profile with a digital chirp, locking onto his features. Text scrolled beside it. Match. Richard H. Carlson. Confidence. 99.7%. Source. DMV/Pinnacle Security Badge/Court Records. The number glowed with an almost taunting finality. 99.7%. Not 100%. Just enough of a margin for a man like him to, in some twisted corner of his mind, cling to a fraction of doubt. But the green box was a cage, and it held him perfectly. Then Reyes tapped again, and a new audio file loaded. The ambient clatter of the restaurant, the clink of silverware, the murmur of other conversations, faded into a suppressed background hum. The technology, Reyes would later explain, was a directional laser microphone, aimed from another table like an auditory sniper rifle. It isolated voices with chilling clarity. And there it was, Richard Carlson's voice. Not the booming, confident tone of the boardroom, nor the saccharine, consoling baritone he'd used with me. This was his workshop voice. Cool, analytical, dispassionate. The voice of a master craftsman discussing the grain of the wood. The divorce settlement is the key. It's not just money to her, it's a symbol. The trophy from a war she thinks she lost. She's emotionally attached to the narrative of that money. Her independence bought with pain. So, you don't present the investment as growth. You frame it as reclaiming her power. Phrase it exactly like that. This is how you take back what that situation cost you. This is your victory fund. She's not investing capital. She's performing an exorcism. She'll leap at it. A pause on the tape, filled with the sound of a pen tapping, tap 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 tap, that familiar rhythmic staccato. Then, responding to a mumbled question from Jason or Veronica, his voice came back even colder. The mother is a non-factor. A sentimental retiree. She's background noise. If she becomes intrusive, Veronica, you handle it. Use the concerned friend angle. Your mother means well, but she's from a different time. She doesn't understand the opportunities you have. Isolate the target. Always isolate the target. Hearing it was a violation of a different order. The financial numbers were an abstraction of evil. But this was the blueprint of a soul theft. It was the calm, step-by-step dissection of a human heart for parts. He wasn't just stealing money. He was scripting a play where Chloe was both the audience and the victim, believing her own empowerment was the climax, when it was actually the moment the trap sprung shut. The sheer, calculated cruelty of using her hard-won peace after Kevin as the very lever to pry her open. It stole the air from the room. He watched his own performance on the tablet screen with the detached interest of a director reviewing a daily shot. No flinch of recognition. No shame. His eyes tracked the green box around his own face, as if observing a fascinating insect under glass. When the audio finished, leaving a hollow silence in the cafe's back room, he didn't look at the damning evidence. He looked at the time on the wall clock above Patricia's head. "I assume my counsel has been contacted," he stated. "Not a question. A logistical checkpoint." His voice was unchanged, flat. It was the voice of a man who had factored arrest into his risk models, who saw lawyers not as saviors, but as another class of specialists like plumbers or accountants to be deployed in a containment scenario. "They're on their way," Agent Reyes replied, his own voice a study in contrasting righteous fatigue. "But they're going to have a lot to catch up on." It was then that Carlson's head swiveled, not toward Reyes or the mountain of evidence, but toward me. His gaze was no longer that of the CEO or the kindly mentor. It was the pure, unsettling gaze of the sociopath. A curiosity devoid of empathy, focused on a broken piece of his equation. "The mother," he mused, the words not spoken to me, but about me, as if I were an anomalous data point on a graph. "You're the variable I didn't weight properly. I discounted you as environmental static. Emotional attachments," he said the phrase as a linguist might examine a dead language. "I always considered them an exploitable weakness in the targets. A predictable leverage point. A coefficient of vulnerability. I failed to see they could generate a protective force multiplier in the periphery. An error in initial conditions." Fascinating. His clinical dissection of love, reducing it to terms like variable, coefficient, force multiplier, was perhaps the most horrifying thing I'd heard yet. It was a language that rendered humanity into code, relationships into inputs and outputs. In his world, my grief wasn't a sacred pain, it was an exploitable opening. Chloe's ambition wasn't a shining trait, it was a predictable leverage point. Our family's love wasn't a bond, it was a structural weakness. A cold fire, different from the earlier rage, ignited in my chest. This wasn't about anger anymore. This was about definition, about asserting a reality he could not compute. I took a deliberate step forward, placing myself squarely in his line of sight, forcing him to acknowledge me not as data, but as a person. "It's not a variable, Richard," I said, my voice low but vibrating with a lifetime of conviction, with the weight of every poem about love, every novel about sacrifice, every lesson plan designed to teach empathy. "It's a constant, the fundamental, unchanging law you miscalculated because your architecture doesn't have the capacity to understand it. You saw my grief as an opening. You saw my daughter's ambition as a tool. You saw the love in our family as a structural flaw to be exploited for tensile strength." I leaned in, just slightly, my eyes locking onto his vacant, calculating ones. "But love isn't a weakness. It's not a coefficient. It's a nuclear reactor. And you arrogant man, you didn't just ignore the safety protocols. You poured gasoline on it, thinking it was coolant. You activated a power source you didn't believe existed, and now it has melted down every single one of your carefully laid circuits." He had no answer. There was no algorithm for this. No data point in his spreadsheets for a mother's fury framed as a law of physics. His eyes, for one fleeting, fractured second, lost their glacial focus. The infinite calculation stopped. Behind the icy intellect, there was no understanding, no remorse, but I saw it. A flicker of pure, unadulterated, puzzling frustration. The frustration of a chess grandmaster who has been checkmated not by a queen or a rook, but by a pawn that, against all logic and rules, sprouted wings and flew. It was the look of a man whose entire, elegant model of the universe had just been invalidated by a stubborn, irreducible fact he could not name. The moment passed. The shutters behind his eyes closed. The data stream resumed, assessing his new reality: arrest, lawyers, damage control. They took him away then, to a waiting armored vehicle that seemed absurdly dramatic for a man in a bespoke suit. The cafe slowly returned to normal, the undercover agents melting away like stagehands after a final, devastating act. Patricia Morgan squeezed my shoulder, her professional armor cracking for a second. "You were brilliant in there, Elizabeth. Cold as ice." I watched the taillights of the vehicle vanish around the corner, carrying that bewildered, frustrated mind away to a cell where no variables would behave as predicted. "I wasn't cold," I said, finally turning to her. The truth of it settled in my bones. I was focused. There's a difference. Ice shatters. Focused light cuts through steel. The aftermath was a whirlwind, but a controlled one. The simultaneous warrants executed on his corner office at Pinnacle and his sprawling, sterile Greenwich home yielded not just evidence, but a chilling self-portrait. Beyond the encrypted hard drives and false passports were his handwritten journals. In precise, elegant script, they detailed his philosophies of influence, complete with case studies of client A and subject B. He had written about the emotionally governed class, with the disdain of an entomologist for a common beetle. Reading excerpts, I felt not anger, but a profound, weary sadness for the empty universe he inhabited. Chloe's recovery was slow, painful, and magnificent to witness. Leaving Pinnacle was like amputating a limb. The limb was diseased, but it had been hers, and the phantom pain was acute. She entered a specialized therapy program for financial crime victims, where she learned a crucial truth. The shame she carried was not her failure, but a fingerprint of her abuser, dusted onto her soul. She learned to hand that shame back piece by piece. Her transformation was breathtaking. She didn't flee from the world of finance. She dove into its darkest trenches. She consumed textbooks on forensic accounting, treatises on behavioral psychology, and FBI white papers on fraud. But her real textbook was her own memory. She reached out to other victims, women from the map with the red pins, and together they formed a quiet, powerful guild of survivors. Her expertise became something no academy could teach. She could smell the narrative of a scam. She could spot the reclaiming your power hook in a prospectus, hear the isolate the target strategy in a sweet nothing. So, when Agent Reyes called 8 months later, it felt less like an offer and more like a destiny clicking into place. "Chloe, we have an opening for a civilian specialist advisor. Your name came up." "Actually," he'd said, and I could hear the smile in his voice, "it was the only name that came up. She now works with a dedicated team, a hunter of the Richard Carlsons of the world. She brings something irreplaceable to the table, the empathy of the hunted, married to the analytical mind of the hunter. She is in every way my daughter, having learned the hard way that some monsters are real, and then choosing to become a master of the maps that lead to their lairs." David found his own kind of justice. His divorce from Veronica was swift, clinical, and utterly final. He didn't fight over the ashes of their life. He simply walked out of the burning theater. He sold the house, donated a substantial portion to the victim restitution fund Chloe helped establish, and vanished into the vast, quiet geography of the American West. Last Christmas, a postcard arrived. No return address. Just a photograph of a lone, snow-capped peak in Colorado and 2 words written in his firm attorney's hand. "Finding quiet." I read those words, and for the first time since that Saturday morning, I didn't feel a pang of pity for him. I felt a surge of hope. He was going to be all right. As for me, the formal invitation from the FBI Academy at Quantico sits in a simple frame on my desk. I look at it often. I think about standing in a lecture hall before rows of bright, eager, serious faces. Future guardians who study the tools of monsters. I think about telling them to look beyond the algorithms, beyond the financial trails, to remember the peripheral variables, to understand that sometimes the most critical intelligence comes not from a wiretap, but from a mother's instinct, that the most powerful weapon against a man who sees people as equations is a person who understands the poetry of the human heart. Most days, though, I am just Elizabeth. I am in my garden, my hands in the dark, rich soil, coaxing life from silent seeds. A quiet rebuttal to a man who saw only dead matter to be exploited. I am at book club, arguing passionately about the moral complexities in a new novel, celebrating the very ambiguity he sought to erase. I am setting an extra place at my table for Sunday dinner, for my daughter, the federal agent, who now looks at me not only with a child's love, but with a colleague's hard-won respect, a silent toast to the team we became. The locked door led to an open road, a road we built ourselves from the rubble of his designs. And the view from here, it's not just full of light, it's ours. So, that is the full story. Not just a tale of betrayal, but a map of a rebirth. From the suffocating steam of a bathroom to the clear, sharp light of a justice we carved ourselves. It taught me that our deepest vulnerabilities, when guarded by love and tempered in the fire of truth, don't remain weak points. They become the forge where our strongest selves are shaped. Now, I turn it over to you, my dear listeners. Where are you joining me from today? Is it the rainy streets of Seattle? The sunny coast of Barcelona? The bustling heart of Mumbai? Type your city in the comments. Let's create a global map of resilience right here. Has this story touched a place in your own life? Did it remind you of a time you found a strength you never knew you had? Please share your story below. Your words are not just comments, they are beacons. They might be the exact light someone else, lost in their own betrayal, needs to find their way home. And if this journey, from a locked door to a reclaimed life, meant something to you, if it stirred your spirit or fortified your resolve, I ask you for 2 simple acts of solidarity. First, smash that like button. Let the algorithm know that stories of substance, of nerve, and of real human justice are the stories that matter most. Second, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Remember this from a woman who has seen the worst and helped build something better. No matter what door is locked against you, no matter who holds the key, never forget that you carry the blueprint to the whole house inside you. You just have to be brave enough to build it.